Negeri Taruna Nala Malang, Istepa. The Honorable Mr. Abdul Rashid SPD MP Sol as the chairperson of the 7th English Teaching Conference 2022. The moderators, organizing committee, and all our guests present today, thank you and welcome to the 7th English Teaching Conference 2022 with the theme Quo-Vadis Independent Curriculum for English Language Learning. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie, and I will be the master of ceremony for today's conference. I hope everyone is in good condition, and it's such a pleasure to meet you virtually through this event. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your enthusiasm for attending the conference. We hope that this conference will provide you with great insight into the topic. Before we go further, please let me read our agenda for today's conference. 1. Opening by singing the national anthem of Indonesia and UNESA theme song. 2. Welcoming remark. The first welcoming remark will come from Mr. Abdul Rashid SPD MP Sol, as the chairperson of the 7th English Teaching Conference 2022. The second welcoming remark will come from Mr. Syafiul Anam PhD as the Vice Dean III of the Faculty of Languages and Arts, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. 3. The first plenary session with Mr. Syafiul Anam PhD and Mrs. Rida Alfilia Santi MPD as the speakers will be moderated by Mrs. Hani Dwi Iswati SS MPD in this main room. Following that, we will have our first parallel session, which will be conducted in 2 different breakout rooms at the same time. And after we have our first parallel session, we will have our lunch break. And after the lunch break, we will have our second plenary session with Mr. Andrew Sirojki, PhD, as our speaker and will be moderated by Mr. Sueb, SPD MPD. The second parallel session will be arranged in 4 different breakout rooms at the same time. Before moving on to our next agenda, we would like to invite you to listen to and sing the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, and also the UNESA theme song. All right, thank you to the committee and to all the participants for singing the national anthem and the UNESA theme song. Following this, we will listen to several opening remarks. As the kick-off, I would like to please Mr. Abdur Rashid SPD MPSOL as the chairperson of the 7th English Teaching Conference 2022 to give his opening remark. To Mr. Rashid, you are pleased to take over.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning from Surabaya. We would like to welcome you to the 7th English Teaching Conference 2022. We would like you to be part of this special forum dedicated to English teachers, practitioners, researchers, and students for giving insights and sharing experience. This year's conference focuses on independent learning policy and its impact to English teaching and learning. Therefore, our theme for this conference is Quo Vadis Independent Curriculum for English Language Learning. As one of leading English department in Indonesia, UNESA plays important role for the development of teachers' qualifications and professionalisms through quality education services and academic forum. In terms of strategic partnerships, we have worked with teachers and practitioners to share their best practice of their teaching, especially in relation to independent learning. Independent learning provides teachers and students flexibility to organize their learning activities. Independent learning, a new policy issued by Ministry of Education and Culture, revolve around the concept of learning with enjoyable learning atmosphere and promoting students' analytical and critical thinking. Nowadays, teaching and learning occurs beyond the class walls. Students can learn anytime and anywhere, synchronously and asynchronously. Learning may be more comfortable as thousands of resources are directly available within students' grasp. Teachers, as facilitators, are required to be more creative and innovative to create enjoyable learning atmosphere. They also need to shape students to be more autonomous in learning, nurture their reasoning and critical thinking, and encourage them to choose their special learning pathway. Today's conference is expected to give highlights of better adaptation English teaching and learning practices in independent curriculums. It would also expected to give insight to teachers and practitioners on how to develop learning materials, encourage critical thinking through creative writing, integrate culture in learning, and teach values through literature. For this opportunity, I would like to extend my gratitude to the parties of the forum. Keynote speakers who will be committed to share their perspective on teaching English, from developing materials, assessing English, promoting effective classroom instructions, and designing best practices through action research. And second, to organizing committee who have worked very hard to make this conference happen with limited resources. And the last one, to presenters and participants who have prepared and submitted their teaching reflections and best practices. We do hope that these forums will give positive insights and strengthen collaborations between the relevant parties, teachers, and students. For all participants, have a fruitful and enjoyable discussions, and good luck. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Rashid, for your warm greeting to all of us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, our next opening remark, and to open this event officially, will be given by Mr. Syafiul Anam, PhD, the Vice Dean III of the Faculty of Languages and Arts, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. To Mr. Syafiul, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to you all. First of all, I would like to thank the committee who have organizing this event, the English Teachers Conference 2020, Pak Rashid and the team. And also I thank to all the lecturers of the English department. In this room, I see Bu Tiwi, Pak Munir, and Retno, and others. Of course, I also appreciate the participation from all who have joined this conference, can be students or teachers. So I do hope that this event, this conference, will provide insight and perspective and also broaden our knowledge, especially in the teaching of English, and so that we can contextualize and practice it in our classroom. Okay, yep. That's the brief remark from me. Let me open this English Teachers Conference officially by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Have fruitful and also insightful discussion. Thank you very much. See you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Syafiul, for the warm greeting and for opening today's conference. So, ladies and gentlemen, as Mr. Syafiul already gave his opening remark, this conference is officially open. Ladies and gentlemen, we will have our photo session that will be handled by the committee. To all participants, you can turn your camera on and give your best smile to show your excitement about today's conference. All right, taking photo for the first slide, second slide, going on to the third slide, fourth slide, fifth slide, and finally the last slide. Okay, thank you everyone for turning on your camera, and please stay until the end of the event because we will give you attendance list to claim your certificate. All right, finally, we're going to dive into our main agenda. For the first agenda will be the first plenary session with Mrs. Hani Iswati, MPD, Ani Dwi Iswati, MPD, as the moderator. Mrs. Henny is a lecturer in English Department of Universitas Negeri Surabaya. I'd like to greet Mrs. Henny first. Hello, Mrs. Henny. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephanie. Good morning, all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay,
Please,
Mrs. Henny
will manage
the
the
conference.
conference from now on.
So,
So,
Mrs. Henny, you are pleased to
to
take
take over.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Good morning, all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, the Honorable Head of English Department, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, Ibu Pratiwi Retnaningtya PhD, as well as the Head of English Education Study Program, Mr. Himawan, PhD, and also our speakers from UNESA. We have Mr. Safiul Anam, PhD, and another one is from Malang, Ibu Rida Afrilia Santi, MPD, and also the happy participants. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Henny Dwi Iswati. It gives me a great pleasure to be the moderator of the 7th English Teacher Conference with the theme of Wafadis Independent Curriculum for English Language Learning. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to our keynote speakers for today, and the first session that will be with Mr. Safiul Anam. Good morning, Mr. Safiul. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam, Bu Henny.
Okay, how are you today, sir?
Alhamdulillah. Good.
Okay, so before we listen to his presentation, let me read for his CV first. Mr. Safiul Anam, now he is in charge of the Vice Dean for Student Affairs, Faculty of Language and Arts in Universitas Negeri Surabaya. And he got his undergraduate and master degree from Universitas Negeri Surabaya, and he finished his doctoral program from Cantera University in 2016. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, now allow me to welcome Mr. Safiul Anam, PhD, to present the material of material development for about 20 minutes. Mr. Safiul Anam, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Henny.
You're welcome.
Okay, can you see the screen? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Ibu Bapak, very good morning again. This is my second role as the speaker, previously just to open this conference. Okay, yep. The committee told me to give a talk on the material development. So this morning, I'm going to talk about the development of the language teaching material, being do-it-yourself teacher. It means that we are now encouraging teachers to develop their own material in addition to using the existing textbook. Okay. This is the outline of my presentations about the reasons of using teacher-produced material, why we use our own material, and why not, about the advantages and the disadvantages of using teacher-produced material, and also factors considered when we develop material, and the guideline for designing effective material. And the last one is one of the alternative approach in designing the material, that is corpus approach. Okay. Before I explain the reason why teachers need to develop the material, let me highlight first what we mean with teaching material. Material can be anything Anything can be visual, can be auditory. From that, we can use to facilitate the teaching and learning processes in our classroom. So while material development, it means that we teachers, we can what we call, we make ourselves, we can adapt the existing one. Of course, we start from the evaluation of the existing material, we adapt it, we design, we produce the material. Teachers often have the option if they want to use textbooks or make their own. And all of this having the advantages and also disadvantages. But of course, in this case, I encourage you to make your own with more advantages or disadvantages. The first advantage is the contextualization. It means that using our own material, or when the teacher makes their own material, it can provide cultural context. Lots of course book we have seen so far are full of speech act, or maybe the function based on situation which maybe our students do not encounter in their life. So using the existing book, especially published globally, sometimes this is not that what we call entirely appropriate for our students. So that because such book pay little attention to the local varieties of English, all of more what we call Anglo-centric. So we need to pay more attention to the local variety of English, and what we call also in recognizing English as international language. The second reason is it accommodate making our own material. It can accommodate our students' need, individual need. If possible, of course, teachers, when they want to develop their material, they need to do simple need analysis as the basis for developing the material. It can be based on the perceived needs of the students. And the third reason, this is the personalization as another reason. Using our own material can add personal touch to teaching, so that the student will appreciate this. And it's time limit. When we develop our own material, this can respond to what we call to the local and international event, which is very recent and relevant and could be interesting to the student. Can be topic and also the task. This is different from the case when we use existing textbook. The topic can be outdated, not the most recent one happening around us. So these are the advantages of the reason why using our own material is worth doing. And remember one thing that we have to underline, that the one size doesn't fit all. We cannot use a single textbook to meet the need of all of our students with different characteristics. But of course, we have to admit that when producing our own material, there are some disadvantages of it. Let's say about the organization. When the teacher make their own material, the material can be less organized compared to the existing book. The time, of course, very time consuming for teachers, in addition to a lot of workload for teachers, teaching, administrative staff, assessment, and many others. So setting aside time to develop their own material can be another burden for me. But I'm sure that it is still worth doing. And then about the quality, yeah. Of course, compared to the published textbook, our material can, yeah, there are some. It has kind of lower quality in terms of the, let's say, it may contain errors because there is no proofreading of that. We make our website and then give it directly to our students, and then maybe poorly constructed, lack of clarity in terms of the layout, or maybe the quality of the page. Okay, and then when we develop our material, we have to consider now the thing. The first is the curriculum. The material we develop should be aligned to the curriculum. Let's say currently we have what we call curriculum Merdeka. That this provides kind of more space for us actually to develop the teaching material. And the second reason is, of course, our own competence. We have to reflect on ourselves whether we have the capacity to do it or not. But if you feel you are not confident enough, and then, yeah, still you have to push yourself and improve our ability to make our material. And then think also about the copyright compliant with, let's say, when you develop your own material and then you what we call use some images or some sources, you have to think about the copyright and time. Yeah, that time, as I have mentioned before, it is quite time consuming and you have to consider this. But yeah, still making our own material is worth trying and worth doing. Okay. And then this is the guideline for us when we want to develop language teaching material. First, that English teaching material should be contextualized in terms of the curriculum, and then in terms of topic, providing topic meaningful one, and also provide kind of purposeful uses for the target language. And then second, the material should be able to stimulate interaction and encourage learners to be actively communicate in the classroom using the target language. And then ELT material should also encourage learners to develop skills and also strategies so that this can nurture student ability to learn on their own, being self-regulated, because this is very important to provide students with some confidence to what we call to persist in their effort to improve their language skill. And especially when they find difficulties in the classroom during their learning English. And then ELT material should also allow for, well, should focus also on the form and as well as the function. I think all of you are familiar with this already. And then ELT material should also provide opportunities for using integrated languages, listening, speaking, reading, writing. And then ELT material should also provide authentic text and also task. And then ELT material should be attractive, let's say, in terms of the physical look, user-friendly, durability, and the material should also provide appropriate instruction. The instruction should be effective, clear, and appropriate for our students' level of the proficiency. And last but very important, the ELT material should encourage students to use English, to use the target language beyond the classroom. Okay, Bapak, Ibu, and other participants. in developing material, we can use some approach, let's say text-based, task-based, but like the one promoted by Tomlinson, text-based approach, which is also very popular. But at this time, as I have mentioned before, I'm presenting another approach that is corpus-based approach. Of course, this can be orchestrated and can be what we can use a kind of eclectic approach, yeah, using task-based, but also we can also insert we can use a corpus-based approach as well. Yeah, maybe some of you still not familiar with what corpus. Corpus is large electronic collection of language samples that can be analyzed automatically to identify regularities in language use. You will also, well, corpora is the what we call the plural form of corpus. And this is an excellent source for, especially if we focus more on grammatical and lexical form. Especially like, let's say like collocation. And then another common term when we use corpus is concordance. It is a kind of collection of occurrence of form. Okay. Why should we use corpora? Why is it beneficial for us in developing ELT material? Because corpora make it possible for us teachers to select authentic, natural, and also typical language. Using authentic and natural language is very crucial, of course, in developing the material. Not what we call we develop the material is only for the purpose of teaching and learning, but actually the expression, the language are not used at all or in real life, especially by the native speakers. The benefit of using corpus is that corpus or concordance-based activity can have learned to expand that knowledge and use targeted language more automatically, because you will see a lot of millions of word collocation used in real life. Of course, taken from the database electronically. Okay. We can make use of corpus for some reason. For example, for frequency information. Why do we need frequency information? Let's say selecting what to teach, selecting what to focus on. When we check some lexical word, and then we check the frequency. If the highly or frequently used, and then we can consider, okay, this can be included in my material, while some are less used based on the corpus, and then okay, we can set this aside. And also, in terms of the context, you can see the context, situational environment, and also context linguistic environment. We can see this from the concordance. And then grammar information, what corpora shows is far more complicated than what the grammar books like tells you about grammar. Of course, this is especially when we teach more advanced students. And then collocation and physiology information. It's usually difficult for second language learners, like for our students, to learn which word are frequently used together. And of course, encouraging our students to use collocation is very crucial, because this reflects, the fluency and the proficiency of language learners using more colloquial, not what we call bookish language, speaking, but just like reading a book. And then pragmatic information. Yeah, this kind of information from corpora will tell us how language is actually used in communication. This is very crucial. And using corpus, the concordance provide information about it. Okay. This is the examples showing the benefits of using corpus, showing that language is changing. It's both about the use of word. For example, the word like in these sentences, they all have they have different meaning, like showing the verb, like as an adjective, and like just as a filler. Like in second example, they are like, sorry, the first one, like in green, show that this is just a filler. And based on the corpus, checking the frequency, like as a fillers, much more frequently used than like as the adjective or also the adverb. And we can consider this when we develop our material, showing this to our students. And then next, okay, the meaning of the word good in I'm good, it can be showing that I'm fine, doing well, but it can also means no thanks, to decline, to decline an offer, which I think not many of us are familiar with this, saying I'm good, but actually just to show that I'm declining an offer. So we can show to our students other expressions which are also used in actual and in real communication based on the corpus, that the meaning of I'm good is not only to show that we are fine, but also as an alternative expression in addition to no thanks. Or another example, simple example, let's say the meaning of the word literally, it can show, yeah, this one, just give a kind of emphasis. So this what we call simple example evident why corpus is necessary to be what we call to be used in developing the effort material. Yeah, I've provided some corpus-based activities idea one for developing the material. Okay, let's say about collocation. I will not read this, but actually we can what we call develop a task using preparing game when we want to teach our student using collocation, make and do. I will not read. And then now the collocation using close precision, which is actually very common task in we can see from books, but also okay, this is also focusing on the modal verb. This is for intermediate student contextual analysis. And then spot the error activity using the verb, using which modal are correct or incorrectly used. Phrasal verb using close precision as well. But what might be different from the one we find in books or in student worksheet, many of the tasks, the sentences we find in books, they are made by the teacher. They are made by the writers of the book, but not directly taken from the corpus. Not so that this is not showing what we call a natural or authentic one. And then idiomatic expression, concordant analysis, but this is more for advanced level. So let's say following are some idiomatic expression with the word break, like mean to wish good luck, break bread meaning to eat together, and break the mold meaning to do something in different way. And yeah, of course, this is more contextualized when we use concordant analysis, and we use this kind of expression used by the native speakers. Okay, let me wrap up my talk. There are a lot of benefits of making our own material in our own classroom, accommodate the individual differences, the need of our students. This is, of course, in line with the spirit of the new curriculum Merdeka. With more authority given to us, to the teachers, we have to make the basis of it. We develop our own material, we give it to our students. Of course, it doesn't mean that we do not use the existing book. No, we still use it and we supplement with our own material. And the material we develop when we develop the material, we can use corpus approach, based approach, as I have mentioned before. Maybe you can also use task-based or text-based approach. Using corpus can, as I have mentioned, provide more authentic and natural language use. But of course, back to you again, Bapak Ibu, you have to weigh up the benefit and the cost of designing their own teaching material. But I'm very sure and you will consider this seriously, and the benefit is more than the cost. Okay, thank you very much. That's all the end of my presentation, Bu Heni. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Safiul Anam, for giving such an informative and comprehensive presentation for this first part. It is so inspiring and enlighten us to be more productive as teachers. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a couple of minutes before we continue to our second presenters. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Safiul Anam. Okay, so next I would like to say hello to Ibu Rida. Assalamualaikum, Ibu Rida.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Ibu.
Okay, how are you today, Ibu?
I'm doing great. How about you, Fada?
Alhamdulillah, fine too. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, for your information, for the Q&A session that will be at the end of the second session after Ibu Rida presenting her presentation. But before that, I'd like to read about Bu Rida CV's. Okay, so the second keynote speaker is Ibu Rida. Right now, she is an English teacher at SMA N Tarunanala, Jawa Timur. And her educational background, there are two educational backgrounds that I can see here. That she had joined some program. One of them is the Humboldt State University, California, USA, when she joined the global undergraduate program from Fulbright in 2008. And another one is the postgraduate enrichment program in English language education, CMU, Regional Language Center in Singapore, 2016. And she is also on the first cohort in program pendidikan guru penggerak. Beliau ini adalah lulusan program pendidikan guru penggerak angkatan 1 in 2021. And now she is pursuing her PhD program or doctoral program in English language education, Universitas Negeri Malang, granted by Beasiswa Pendidikan Indonesia or BPI, Kemendikbud. And she got her S2 degree from English language education, Universitas Negeri Malang in 2016. Also, she got beasiswa pemerintah Provinsi Jawa Timur, and also she got his undergraduate degree from English language education in Universitas Negeri Malang. And beside as a teacher, she also has written some published book as well as the article published in some well-known Scopus journals. And here we are, some of the books she produced. The first, she wrote buku teks bahasa Inggris tingkat lanjut untuk SMA in 2022. This is the newest one, Ibu ya. And another one is Fokus AKM SMA, buku teks bahasa Inggris peminatan bahasa Inggris kelas 10 in 2019. And also buku teks masa depan bahasa Inggris kelas 7 2018. Let's Learn English with Merah Putih Emas 2018. Also digital storytelling as an alternative learning media for EFL learners in 2011, and also English for pre-intermediate science. And some of her other astonishing achievements are, she got the awardee of Beasiswa Pendidikan Indonesia program S3 GTK PhD scholarship Kemendikbud in 2021. She also Guru Penggerak Angkatan 1. It is like a short course for teachers professional development in Indonesia, Ministry of Education 2020 to 2021. She got awardee of Beasiswa S2 dari Dinas Pendidikan Jawa Timur, her master degree scholarship, as well as the awardee of Global Undergraduate Student Exchange Program in Humboldt State University, California, USA in 2008. And also other achievement that she got. Wow, so proud of you to be here, Ibu Rida. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, now allow me to welcome Mrs. Rida Afrilianti, MPD, to present her material of classroom-based EFL material development through action research involving students as partners for developing learning materials. For about 20 minutes. Yeah, Bu Rida, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bu Harry, for introducing me. Okay, Bapak Ibu, can you see my slide here?
Already, Bu.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Is it still blank in your side?
No, it's already seen here.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be able to be part of ETC 2022 this year. And for today's discussion, I would like to talk about classroom-based EFL materials development through action research, involving students as partner for developing learning materials. And to start, I will have a quick review on textbook positions in EFL context, and I'm sure that you all are familiar with the role of textbook in English teaching and learning. As stated by many scholars, including, I'm sure that you're familiar with Tomlinson in 1998, 2001, and also Brown in 1995, and also many other scholars. Textbooks are a significant source for transferring knowledge and comprehensions for learners. And textbook aid teaching and learning and serve as a reference, learning guidance, encouragement, and enthusiasm. Textbook, moreover, convey what should be taught. Therefore, it is not surprising that most teachers tend to base their lesson plans on textbook discourse. Why? Because the content and also tasks convey to them what should be taught in classroom. So, and Pak Syahri, if I'm not mistaken, the first speaker, he already mentioned about the use of textbook in the classroom as well. And Bapak Ibu, many teachers seem to rely on textbook, as we can see. But however, a textbook can either stimulate and discourage students from learning, depending on how they are presented. When we talk about textbook, I'm sure that we are familiar with the selection criteria of textbook to be used in our classroom. As you can see here, I mentioned some big names in the development of textbook selection criteria. However, despite the multitude of commercial textbook options, teachers are still experiencing difficulties selecting a textbook that fits ideal criteria while meeting the demands for differentiated instructions in their classroom context. And so due to the typically unsuitable content of commercially available textbook to the students' needs, many teachers attempted to develop their own materials. As we have all understood, classroom materials should be prepared with many considerations, including teachers, students, and other contextual factors. And in preparing authentic and contextual materials, there is a need for comprehensions as a result of reflections to develop the materials as part of the actions. As you can see here, two keywords are mentioned, reflections and actions, which is the nature of action research. That is why Tomlinson stated that material evaluations and developments are actually a subset of action research that helps us learn how teaching materials is designed and works. And to highlight more the appropriateness of classroom-based learning materials using action research approach, I drew a diagram here. We can see that both practices include the process of reflections, developments, and implementations of innovations. Action research corresponds to the requirements for generating authentic instructional materials. The perspectives and experiences gained from the actions from the action research project are designed to promote an inquiring attitude toward teachers' professional practice by investigating the needs for the resources they should generate. Moreover, the action continuous evaluations and reflections process foster constant development and improvement, which is critical for developing instructional materials that meet the demand for students' learning. But somehow, teachers find it challenging to identify how students process information and gain knowledge while explaining the materials. Thus, teachers should engage students not only during the context of teaching and learning, but also in the process of planning for learning and evaluating the learning experiences. Therefore, there is a benefit to include students as collaborators in the participatory action research process. The goal of participatory action research is to use experience and understanding in participatory ways to achieve meaningful reform. And in these situations, the students' participation as partner aided the initiative of generating classroom-based EFL materials. In my case, I involve students in to collaborate in 4 phases with 3 different roles. Students' first role is as a co-researchers, and in these roles, they supported me in determining issues by getting involved in diagnostic assessment. Then having their roles as a co-researcher, students demonstrated initial data processing and reported their preliminary findings. Then for the second roles, the students entails being co-creators. Students help in designing and developing the materials. Then the last role is as co-inquirers or evaluators. While playing this role, students participated in the continuous learning reflections for ongoing improvement of generated materials. Moreover, Bapak Ibu, differentiated instructions principles were also used to facilitate the selections and presentations of learning materials and activities based on students' need and interest in the classroom-based learning materials that is developed using action research project. Differentiated instruction principles were chosen because of the typical presentations of commercial textbook that we usually find are frequently general for all students that do not always work efficiently due to students' variations in interest and prior knowledge, regardless of whether they are at the same age. So for the learning materials I developed here, I modified the contents, process, and also product as the tenets of differentiated learning instruction. Now let's talk a bit about what I have done with my students. So I did a participatory action research. As I previously mentioned, I worked with 100 EFL students from 3 classes in my school. They were between age of 16 to 17. Furthermore, the developed material aims to fill the absence of classroom-based materials that allow teachers to accommodate students' various learning needs and interests. And the project was carried out in my school, I mean in East Java, Indonesia, as previously mentioned by Bu Hani. from 2020 to 2021, and the project intervention space was organized after recognizing students' learning issues, interests, needs through diagnostic evaluations or assessment. Then the informations, then now let's just move to the finding and results of the study. I will start by revealing what I have found from the beginning phase. To begin, I use fundamental tenets of differentiated instruction, as I previously mentioned, including student engagement and identification of students' background, learning needs, and interests. I ask students to participate in the classroom discussions and informal interviews. To put students at ease, I started the discussion by asking them what they like to do while learning English. They told me that they wanted to play video games, listen to music, and watch movies. Then I asked them how they were enjoying their English classes so far. They admitted that it was fun, but primarily tedious, especially when I started pulling materials from the textbook I intended to use. Recognize the need for classroom support, as I mentioned. I gathered further information to determine the best solutions. So therefore, I distributed brief questionnaire to discover more about students' learning needs and interests, as I presented in table 1 here, you can see. To enrich the data, I also used reflective journal writing. I wrote a script of questions that would assist students in thinking about the experiences I need to know. You can see here in table 2. And reflective journal writing task here, I see it can enhance students' learning progressions and their roles as co-researcher. In short, wait a minute, okay. In short, the findings of students' reflections revealed that students favored sports, science, arts, and popular societal issues. Therefore, we agreed that our effort to develop learning materials would center on those 4 major topics. Students also preferred colorful, shorter, and simplified text or text with visuals. And almost all students considered that content, learning process, and outcomes are valuable. And nearly all included alternate learning activities, including videos, movies, music, games, and hand-on experimentations or applications. Then individual, small, and large group learning were all anticipated. And students also noted various ways to provide learning product, including in the written and spoken presentation, short videos, and also drawing. And here, as you can see, this is things that I did with my students in developing learning materials using AR approach. I start with the need analysis. I identified problems and solutions by conducting diagnostic assessment to investigate students' learning needs and interests, and then to review the learning objective as mentioned in the curriculum. Then I started designing by switching the diagnostic analysis results with curriculum context and contextualizations. Then I developed materials by presenting differentiated instructions. It is then followed by implementations in which I bring the developed materials into practice. I ask students reflections and revise materials. And in this process, I also consider the applications of pedagogical aspect. Then I completed the current report by having project evaluations. Now let's find out what I have in the first action research cycle. For this cycle, I decided that the first adjustment in my project would be to focus on altering the learning topics and activities in my classroom-based learning materials. When creating the learning materials, I used the diagnostic analysis results to align with the curriculum content and contextual relevance. Then I prepared my instruction using the table 3 list, as I previously showed you all, which includes a list of topics and also activities that my students favored. Then I diversified the learning content, process, and product to enable students to explore their interests. I gave the students the choice of selecting the presentations of information they wish to study from by offering some links. Here, sorry, wait, this one. This is examples or overview of some materials that I have developed with my students. Then after students had experience learning at each meeting, I engaged them in a reflections activities on their subject comprehensions and experiences that day. To aid this process and encourage students to get more involved in the materials development process, I developed and tested two activities for the first action research cycle. First, I used free classroom discussions and reflective journal writing for students to reflect on the learning progress and also activities that have experienced. Then the second one is I also assign students to set a goal setting reflections. So the students have to explain things that they would like to improve and learning activities or topics that they would like to have for the next meeting. Then you can see here the results of the reflection showed that the students they appreciated the variety of learning topics and activities in their learning. Students also presented different approaches to chapter 2, so they have some expectation here. More than half of the students mentioned an interest in learning from the practices through hands-on projects or experiments. Then after participating in group activities in chapter 1 in the previous activities, they also wish to do independent work. Finally, we determined our attempts for chapter 2. We would focus on project-based activities. This project emphasized the students' role as co-creators as they assisted me in developing, testing, and improving the learning materials. You can see here, this picture shows you some activities that I gave to the students for chapter 1. And I also provide students with, and this one is the results of things that I did for action 2. As I previously mentioned, my observations as well as those from students on the results of the first cycle led to the development of a more project-oriented activities. Then the second cycle also involves developing and implementing more diversified activities intending to facilitate students more according to their learning needs and interests. This cycle involved discussions and other activities before the project executions. And in addition to giving them a list of discussion topic and questions, I assigned them to compose questions for each topic that could be used to review their classmates' comprehensions periodically. There were also tasks with helping one another during the process and collaborating as meaningfully as possible. This one, I also provided the students with a template for their project journal to record their activities while undertaking the project. This picture shows you one of my students' work. Students might investigate a phenomenon or problems in their environments, explain their point of view on this issue, identify solutions, implement it, and report it. You can see here my students find problems dealing with food waste at home, and also problems dealing with her dad hobbies with plants, in which her dad has to spend some money on buying organic fertilizer. So she sees that she can do something while reducing food waste. She can also save her father's money on organic fertilizer by making her own or DIY organic fertilizer. And for this investigation, this kind of investigation lasted for 2 weeks, and I checked in with each of them whenever the students and I felt necessary. This lengthy entire process also allowed students to strengthen their abilities as co-researchers, as I previously mentioned, and co-creators, co-inquirers, as well as co-evaluators. And as I documented in my field notes and journal entries and compared the findings on the students' reflections, I discovered that most students agreed that the developed learning materials were relevant to their learning needs and interests. Significantly, they were driven to learn and actively participated in the learning process. Students' improve learning performance and outcomes as part of their learning transformations are evidenced since they were exposed to a participatory and responsive learning environments and instructions through an action research project. As you can see here, some of my other work of my students. From the project evaluations and conclusions, I noted 6 significant aspects that I learned from the project. My observations as well as those of the students led me to conclude that students' engagement and involvement throughout the learning process, from planning to executions until we have evaluations, encouraged them to learn more. The students appreciated the chance to assist in choosing learning topics and activities. The students recognized that their participations had aided them in building communications and other life skills such as planning, organizing, collaborating, communicating, and presenting skills. Furthermore, students' involvement in the Action Research Project enriched the designs and development of classroom-based learning materials. The students' participation in carrying out their roles allows for better communications and broadens understanding. Moreover, the collaborations acts as a foundation for strengthening a learning community involvement, as well as public implementations of policy. So they're not only learning about the content that they are supposed to learn in the curriculum, but they also learn more about their life skill. Even though many students appear to be actively engaged, well, to be honest, there were still few who didn't appear to be. But I consider this as a reminder that not everyone is outspoken and prefers writing to speaking. Therefore, more possibilities for expressing opinions are required in the public venue, like an open discussions, or in written form, like journal entries. So here we can see another obstacles. This is dealing with control and also authority, as well as unanticipated orientations of the developed learning materials. Although my collaborative partnership with students was firmly related to student-teacher connections, the flexibility I offered to voice their needs and also interests created a feeling of empowerment, ownership, and authority. It has two-sided point. I mean, yeah, it's good to have students feel that they own the learning, but somehow, to my context, especially, students appear they use their collaborative opportunities to endorse any alternatives that require little effort or work. So somehow they make use of it. However, this case might be carried out by assisting students in selecting activities aligned with their learning objective by having my roles as a teacher, as a leader, and also expert in the classroom. Furthermore, the action research here, we can see it encourages ongoing reflections and continuous improvement. Students' reflections has been initiated since the early stages of classroom-based materials development, when students rigorously review and assess their learning requirements and interests. Finally, and as the nature of action research and material developments, that is, it necessitates continuous evaluations and reflections, which foster constant development and improvement. My project, I can say that it still requires further improvement. However, it served its goal of enlightening me and others about critical aspects of collaborations and transformations in educations. Similarly, in a continuous research endeavor focusing on action research represent my approach to tackling challenges in my classroom and community. So I think that's all that I can share with you today. Thank you so much for your attention. Bu Henny, I give back the Zoom to you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Rida. So, thank you for your presentation. It is so inspiring. It seems that we also can involve our students in developing our material. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was a very comprehensive presentation. And after we know about the comprehensive outlook from Ibu Rida presentation today, now it's time to have a discussion with both our speakers. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the Q&A discussion session. So let me check. For the rules, you can ask both to the speakers in two ways. First, you can raise your hand first, and don't forget to open your microphone and mention to whom your question is addressed. And the second one, you can also type on the chat features in this platform. We will notify your questions. Okay, so let me check it.
Okay, while waiting for the question, I think we actually my research can actually be collaborated with Pak Safi research in terms of developing materials. I mean, instead of having differentiated instructions, I can also have corpus analysis. I think that will be great. And Bapak Ibu, you can also do it as well. You can invite your students to work with you, and you can learn from your students' work as well to develop further materials with your students using corpus analysis.
Okay, thank you, Bu Rida. Okay, so we are still taking the questions. Once again, Bapak Ibu, you can ask some questions by raising your hands. So you can ask directly to both speakers by raising your hand. Don't forget to unmute your microphone. Okay, so there's already questions to Bu Rida. Your AR is so inspiring. By the way, how did your students could write so well, and how they could discuss in English well? Thank you.
Okay,
So the question is from Ibu Tri Wardati.
Okay,
Thank you.
Putri, for the questions. Well, it needs process, I guess. I teach in secondary school, and if I'm not mistaken, here as from your informations, you are teaching in SMK, so I think that's the same level. But yeah, it needs process, so we can encourage students little by little by giving starting from guided instructions to semi-guided instruction until they are ready and we give free instructions. And for having these collaborations, to be honest, I didn't invite the first grade students, I mean 10 graders for secondary school, but for this project I work with 11 graders and also 12 grade students, so in which they have already got a bit overview or a background, they have more knowledge and also more ability instead of having the first year or fresh students, freshman students in the 10th grade. But I actually think that you can also invite them. You can just switch the materials and also switch the instructions and questions. You can use a simplifier one, more simplified, and you can still work with your students as well. It doesn't matter whether your students are in what level. So it depends on how you put yourself as a facilitators in your role as facilitators to your students' learning. That's all I can share, Putri. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Rida. How about that, Ibu Tri? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Google Translate. in this, Bu Henny, can I directly?
Yeah. Oh yes, why not? The
Okay,
next
sorry.
question.
I just directly read the pop-up questions coming from the chat box.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
for
So
me,
the second question from Bu Gusti.
no,
The question,
Putri,
which
the
one?
previous one, she asked Putri, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. The
did
Google Translate, Ibu.
did they use Google Translate as well? I'm teaching for my students. I'm teaching in a dormitory school, semi-military school, in which the students they are not allowed to use their cell phone in weekdays, but they will use their cell phone on weekends. But they can use and bring their laptops, so they can still access Google Translate. Yes, they can still access it in the classroom. But what I can do with my students, I didn't directly forbid them to use Google Translate, but instead of that, I told them, yeah, you can use it, but you have to use it, for example, to check only words by words, only to check the the meaning of a word, not sentences, because it will change the meaning, and also, yeah, it won't be meaningful for their learning as well. And they can also use it to check the pronunciations, because we have a kind of what's that pronunciation checker in Google Translate, right? So yeah, I'm still using it, but still under my control. Thank you, Bu Hen.
Okay, thank you, Bu Rida, for the answers. Now we move to the second question from Ibu Gusti Lenanur. The question is for Mr. Safi. Pak Safi, I have found several sentences that sounds unnatural or are grammatically incorrect in some elementary English books in Surabaya. How to raise awareness of using corpus or corpora among teachers to improve the quality of ELT itself.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Bu Gusti, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, as I have mentioned before that when we develop our own material or the existing book but not published by the publishers, we still find a number of grammatical error or sometimes the expression are unnatural because the sentences or the text are made for teaching and learning purposes, not taken as from the authentic text. So this is quite natural. But and then how to raise awareness of using corpora among teachers? Yeah, of course, by continuously improve our professional development, attending workshop, attending seminars like this, of course, will raise our awareness why making our own material is worth trying, worth doing, including using corpora. And not only attending workshop or attending the seminar, but also, yeah, a lot of sources in the internet we can learn from that. And then okay, yeah. If you feel confident with your own ability to write and the material, and then of course you can try to use corpus. Yeah, let's say the English corpus, and then you check COCA. COCA is a kind of database based on the American. A lot, millions of expression there. So you can take this and then you can adapt this and then introduce this material to your students. So the material you present to them will be more natural, will be more authentic, and this will reduce the possibility of errors. And of course, from the concordance and also the expression there varies in terms of the sources. It can be the expression used in academic context, in movies, spoken language, in magazine. So you can choose the sources from various types, like as I have mentioned before. So when you want to teach a student, especially focus on speaking, try to find natural expression used in speaking. Yeah, choose the expression from the concordance used in the spoken. As let's say, let me show you like this. Yeah. Okay. This like this one. Yeah. Okay. We can check the. I just typed the word bring. The word bring, and then the word being used in blog, in web, in TV or movie, in spoken, in fiction, in magazine, in news, and in academic context. Let me. We will see the word bring is mostly used in movie or TV. Let me check this. We can see this. This is concordance with a lot of. There are millions of words, of course, millions of sentences here. Using the word bring, and we can check this. So when we take this, and then we, of course, we put this in our text, so this will be more natural. It is very time consuming, of course, for us, but still, why not to try it? Of course, you have to get familiar with this first. And attending workshop about it is, yeah, trying. Not just attending one seminar, 1 hour seminar. Not enough. Okay, that's all good.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stafi, for the answers. And then we will continue to the next question for Ibu Rida from Bapak Suyitno. How to choose the material that interests the students and fulfill the curriculum.
Okay,
Okay, Ibu Rida.
yeah, thank you, Pak
Suyitno.
Suyitno. Okay, thank you, Pak Suyitno, for the questions. Thank you, Behani. Well, as I previously mentioned, Bapak, I started from the diagnostic assessment. In this case, I invite the students to discuss. If you follow my presentations, in the first second slides or third slides, I show you the results of diagnostic assessment that I give to the students. In the daily instructions, I usually just invite the students to have kind of informal discussions in class after we have the learning or before we have the learning. I ask them, how do you think about the teaching, or how do you think about the activities today, and what kind of topics that you would like to discuss, and so on and so forth. And for this project, I specifically invite the students to fill a final questionnaire. So I give them a brief questionnaire asking them, I enjoy talking about this, I enjoy discuss about this, so I know the topic from the student's point of view. And how do I switch that with the content of the curriculum? Yeah, we have, as a teacher, we have authority to select. So while discussing with the students, we can also switch them and check this one is appropriate to these materials, for instance, and we can explain to the students. So we will have this topic later on in the next meeting, and now we will have this topic and so on and so forth. So just use the discussions, activities with the students. That's all that they can say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Rida. Continuing to question from Bu Sri. Do you determine the topic of the material or the students choose by themselves?
I think the previous questions has actually answered already. Yeah. So
it seems so.
Yeah, we discussed with.
Okay. Another question from Pak Nur Cakim, Ibu. When you assign the students to develop English materials, do you ask them to adopt, adapt, or create the materials? And what obstacles do you encounter in assigning the students to do the project or developing English materials?
Okay, so thank you. So Bapak Ibu, I didn't assign students to develop materials, but I assigned students to be my collaborators. I assign students to be my co-creator. So I will work with them, and what the students do is that they provide me with information about things that they like, they want to have in the classroom, what activities that they want to have. But then I take my own roles as a teachers to construct the materials according to what the students needs and also interested in. And for the obstacles, I think I also mentioned that in the last part of my presentations. Well, when I give the students a kind of authority and also trustworthiness of working with me, somehow our students, they just make use of it. And I'm sure that you somehow you have such kind of problem when you work with your students as well. When I ask them to what they actually want to do and what activities they want to do and what topics that they want to learn about, somehow they take the collaborative opportunities to endorse any alternative that require little effort or work. So they just make use of it, and that's one of the obstacle. And in solving these problems, I take control. I take my roles as expert in the classroom and also leader. So yeah, I select, I help them to select, and to select and filter the activities and also materials that they need to learn and not. That's what I can share.
Okay, thank you, Bu Rida. And then the next question, it is for Mr. Safi from Ibu Humaira Fauzia. I have used Corpus as sources to learn English in my classroom. However, the examples in concordance lines sometimes confused the students, especially low-level students. Is there another way to present the results of the concordance lines to make them easier to understand?
Okay,
Mr.
yeah.
Safi?
Okay, thank you, Humaira, for the question. Excellent, you already used Corpus. Great. Yeah. This is common problem actually when we used Corpus, and then some of our students, especially the low-level students, have difficulty with this. And I don't think that is another way. What we can do actually is only maybe picking only the sentences, the concordance lines, which we think have our student can understand. So of course this is time consuming because we have to select a lot of sentences there in concordant lines, and we have to pick and which one we think suitable with our student. And I need to recall that to remind us that when we develop our material, of course, it should fit the level of proficiency of our student. And this is also the case when you use Corpus. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Safi. Is there any other questions? Let me check it. Next, from Ibu Lili Indayani to Bu Rida. How to anticipate limitation of facilities and infrastructure as a learning media to provide fun material for students in the independent learning curriculum?
Okay,
Ibu Rida?
yeah, thank you so much for the questions. Well, Bu Lili, I think developing our own materials is very beneficial and for all teachers, whether they have facilities in dealing with facilities on infrastructure or not, because we can always switch with things that we have in the classroom. And you have, in my understanding, interesting material doesn't always deal with technology. We can have interesting materials with non-technological media. We invite the students to have other activities instead of having technology. I think that's also fun. So it depends on how you can you can be creatively use assets or things that you have in your surrounding. You can invite, for example, the project that I did with my students, I just invite the students to observe what happens in their surrounding. They can find problems in their home, and as one of my students mentioned, she saw food waste as a problem, and she talked about it, and she actually didn't need any facilities to work with that, because the solutions that she give, she just what's that add the waste from what's the ingredients in the kitchen that she found in the kitchens, and add some water and let it ferment it, then use it for organic fertilizer, just report it. So she actually doesn't need any facilities like technology and so on and so forth. So you can always make use of everything that you can find in your surrounding. Thank you, Bu Hani.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Bu Rida, for the answers. Okay, Bapak Ibu, I think apparently we still have more questions to the topic to be discussed. But however, due to limited time, we need to end our discussion session for this first session. And then I would like to say thank you for the excellent point and a very detailed answer to the questions answered by both speakers. So next, I would like to invite both speakers to give the closing remarks for these first sessions. Maybe Mr. Safi first.
Yep. Just to underline the necessity of making our own material to meet the need of our students, especially this is in line with the spirit of Kurikulum Merdeka, DIY, being DIY teachers. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Mr. Safi. What about Ibu Rida?
Okay, thank you, Ibu. I would like also to emphasize the need for continuous continuous improvement. In external research, we can see that there is a clear beginning, but it lacks of clear end point. So there is always needs improvement and developments for your materials that you have developed or things that you have done in your classroom. So keep moving and keep improving. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Ibu. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally come to the end of this first part of the conference. Thank you for the concise closing remarks for both speakers. And please allow me to take some highlighted points from this today's conference. Talking about developing English materials, we can do it ourselves. And we also can involve our students in developing our materials, especially for the EFL, and keep moving and always inspiring others. Okay, thank you very much once again. So at the end of this session, I will give it back to you to Stephanie. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bapak Ibu, for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you for both speakers as well.
All right, thank you. Thank you to Mrs. Hani for moderating the first general plenary session. And I would like to thank the wonderful speakers too, Mr. Shafiul Anan PhD and Mrs. Rida Aprilia Santi MPD, and to all the audience who participated in the Q&A session. For now, before we move on, we will give you the attendance form through the chat box for you to fill. And I will give you around 2 minutes to fill out the attendance form. And while you filling out the attendance form, I'd like to give you a brief explanation of what are we going to do after this session. The upcoming session will be the first parallel session that will be conducted at the same time in different breakout rooms. You can choose between 2 breakout rooms, and the committees will share the topics of each room. And in the meantime, the committee will open the breakout room and you may choose your breakout room based on the topics you are interested in. You can see at the bottom of your Zoom, there is a breakout room button. You can click it and you can choose your breakout room preference. You also can see the topics and the presenters as well at your screen. The committee already shared it to you. I think if you already done with your attendance form, you can directly go to your breakout room because we are going to directly proceed to the next session. Thank you.